You're listening to Scoot Closer, brought to you by Resting Rageface Media.
Welcome to our sixth and final episode of the year on Scoot Closer. Today we'll reflect on the season we've had, what news stories are getting us fired up, and some special stories from former guests on the show. Can you believe that it's our sixth episode? That it's our last episode of the year? That we even made it past episode 1.
Yeah, it's really exciting that we've made it this far and that we're actually calling it season 1.
Well, we also got our Spotify Wrapped, which was really exciting because we haven't really thought about how we quantify the success or the work of this show. And the Wrapped really highlighted that for us. I think one of the things that we never expected in our first season was that we ended up charting in the US. That was mind-blowing.
That's crazy.
We charted for 5 days.
Yeah, it's not even a super high number. So we charted at 36 and I don't know, we broke the top 50, which is so cool.
I'll take that because everybody has a podcast. We all know that. You all listening, you all probably have podcasts too.
Probably. But much better than us, charted way higher than us. Just let us have this win.
No, but that was just an amazing accomplishment to get, early on in our season. And I feel all right, that's the gauntlet.
And we've never achieved it again.
We never saw the charts again. That's true.
We never saw the charts again. For those that are still listening to us, thank you. Keep amplifying, keep telling people about the podcast, folks that you think would really enjoy listening and learning anything from us. So we'd love to see the charts again. We don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. Love a second date with the charts. Would love a callback. Sure. Yeah, I mean, to this point, these conversations only happen if we're all a part of them. And so, we just want you guys to keep engaging with us. And we really, if you've made it this far, you're a real one. So thank you for listening.
I have a bone to pick with Spotify, though.
Yeah.
Spotify, how dare you?
Do you know
what age it gave me for my listening? And seriously, how dare you? I listen to mainly Charlie XCX and Justin Bieber. I'm a pop girly, dude. And it told me that I was 81 years old. And I was what in the world? I think it's because over the course of the year, and that's
not even
kind of a heavy time in the summertime. One of my little ones was really into rocking around the Christmas tree, and I'm not talking about during December. I'm talking about deep July. And we were just listening to Rocking Around the Christmas Tree a lot. And I think Spotify thinks I'm 81 because of that.
Yeah. Spotify's you must have dementia if you're listening to Christmas music in July.
But what about the 80 times I did listen to Brat over the year?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't it cancel out?
No, it can't matter. Can I tell you, if Instagram did a what's your age, if it knew how many times I had to post, delete, repost any social post for Scoot Closer, it would probably tell me I'm clinically dead.
You guys, it happened again. But as we were posting for the end of the year wrap up, Shraddha was I gotta go. I can't talk to you right now. I have to go delete something and I have to rephrase it because I forgot how to add the music. And I was okay, par for the course.
But Ankita, I didn't tell you I did it 3 times. Did you notice? Oh, you got the notifications.
No, I didn't get. I don't think I got the notifications.
I posted 3 times. I deleted it before anyone saw, I hope.
Well, so as we wrap up the year, we really wanted to take a look back at things that made us angry and things that made us hopeful. For today, what we kind of wanted to do was go through a couple of topics that really fired us up in good ways and bad ways.
Ankita, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about what makes me angry. One of the things that made me really angry this year was the abortion bans that we had in place really led to an increase in maternal deaths Because essentially what happened is that birthing parents, women lost access to healthcare during a really important time in their lives. Abortion is a medical term. So even if you've had a miscarriage and for some reason your body is not going through the process of carrying out that miscarriage, you need intervention. You need to go to the doctor. And if they need to intervene, that's called an abortion. And having abortion bans in place led to women having to be at the door of death for medical intervention to take place. And I think that pisses me off that that pregnancy is not deemed a medical event. Oh my gosh, I'm going to rant about so many things. Abortion has been politicized. Like there are medical cases where abortion is needed. And when a woman has a miscarriage and that fetus is still in her body and it's creating sepsis and the doctor's like, I can't do anything about it. You have to wait for your body to complete the process on its own. I can't give you pills because of the policies in place. Now that woman has to go back home, wait till she's at the door of death, and then go and get emergency intervention done at that point. Yeah. The policies that have put this in place, that's what makes me really mad. And I came across a handful of like social media posts and TikToks and stuff from women who voted for these policies, who voted for abortion bans, who voted for limited access to health care when a pregnancy is going sideways, or just in general for women's health. And they started to need
experiencing the risks.
Yes.
Right?
Like at 26 weeks, at 9 weeks, at any point of the time, they started to realize what they had voted for. And they were saying, I didn't understand that that's what this meant. I didn't understand that I had a miscarriage. I couldn't get care after my miscarriage. I didn't understand that I'm a high risk pregnancy and I have to now go to another state to deliver, because if I have to deliver in the state that I'm in, they're not going to try and save me. There was a woman that I had on my TikTok where her doctor she was a high risk pregnancy. Her doctor was basically telling her, hey, you need to go to another state because I am not going to be able to terminate this pregnancy to save your life. Yeah. And she was like, I don't understand. I've never left Texas. I don't know anybody else outside.
Why would I find another care team when I'm
she's like, how am I? She's 28 weeks pregnant. She's like so far in her journey, and now she's just completely confused about where she goes from here. So I think that made me angry. Lack of access to birthing parents and women during their pregnancy journeys. And if we actually looked at these real world examples and the impact that it has on families, on individuals, we would have such a different outlook on this. Yeah. These are things that are happening in your community. This is what's happening to your friends and your family members. And it's just really important for us to look at this from a lens of community and our village versus what a talking head thinks about it.
Yeah. Well said. Okay. What are you hopeful about? Let's switch gears.
Yes, because we're half doom and despair and half rainbows and sunshine.
That sounds about right.
Something that I am really hopeful about this year, and this was kind of late breaking towards the end of the year, the FDA decided to remove black labeling from hormonal therapy for menopause. A black box warning is essentially FDA's most serious label. They put it on prescription drugs and medical devices. Essentially what it says is like taking this prescription drug or using this device could lead to life-threatening injuries like death, concerns of cancer, stroke, suicidal thoughts, organ damage, things like that. So in November of 2025, the FDA decided to remove that from menopausal hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, citing that the science had been updated and the risks that they had previously associated with it, like breast cancer, stroke, and heart disease, are actually lower, and the benefits are actually higher, especially for women that start the therapy within 10 years of starting menopause or before the age of 60. All of this came to be because guess why?
Why?
Science.
Oh, right. I literally asked
just-
that like I didn't know the answer.
there's just been so much more research in the last 10 years that has been done, and so much more evidence that has come out. When these black box warnings were put on, we were dealing with outdated medications. We were dealing with a much older group of women in these studies, and we've just updated our science now. And this comes from a lot of on the grounds advocacy that has happened by OBGYN groups, and this is just really great news all around. What this means is that as women, we can now discuss treatments around menopause without all of this misinformation and scariness around like, oh, if I go
like
on
the
hormone therapy, the fear, if I go on hormones, then I like have higher breast cancer and like stroke events. That could be a possibility. But this is a step forward in how we talk about women's health and how we improve the symptoms that we deal with during this phase of life, and really change our quality of life.
Yeah. I like what I love about this one is I think one of the very first pieces of research that we read when we started the show had to do with the like untapped potential of the global women's health market. And it was like, what was that number? Like $360 billion of revenue of generation that we're missing. The number one category in that list of completely underfunded, undertapped, underutilized health topic for women was menopause. So we just know that one is like the one that gets vastly ignored. I'm really excited for us to research and do a focused episode on it next year. But hearing this and knowing that this is going to hopefully unlock more avenues of treatment for menopause symptoms, get people more comfortable with like treating their menopause symptoms if they want to.
Remove the stigma. It's going to remove the stigma that we have of like hormone therapy. We're having an open conversation now.
Yeah.
Now having that information, having that language, and then also having the resources with hormones being able to help, especially during a time like perimenopause and menopause, I think that's really amazing, and it's a step forward, and I'm very hopeful for what that could mean in the future.
I love that.
All right, Shweta, your turn. What's got you fired up? What's got you so angry this year?
Okay. I actually like don't even know how much to contain my anger around this one. Both my anger and my hopeful are going to be about endometriosis. And I'm not going to go like deep right now into how pervasive endo is. Spoiler alert, it's quite pervasive, more than we think, because it goes underdiagnosed.
I've heard it's 1 in 10, and
that's probably an underestimate.
That's an underestimate because women with endometriosis are continuously being told it's something else. It's not that. It's in your head. It's period pain. Blah 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 blah. They point to like 80 different things like before it gets anywhere.
We'll go into this in more detail in the future, but for those wondering, endometriosis is a condition where your endometrial tissue, where it should exist in your uterus, is now growing outside of your uterus, and then it ends up causing pelvic pain. It could cause pain in other areas too. It's not limited to your pelvis, but endometrial tissue with this disease can grow kind of anywhere depending on how advanced it is. It could be growing on your bladder, your lungs, up to your arm, your leg, depending on how advanced it gets, which is very scary.
And so then what happens with this tissue growing outside of where it's supposed to grow is that as your hormones go through its like period cycle, you experience pain in areas that you're not supposed to traditionally experience pain in. Like it's these tissues are getting inflamed like over your bladder or your hip, where it doesn't make sense for that tissue to grow and for that tissue to get inflamed on a monthly basis.
You don't have to look very far into endometriosis to get pissed off. That's like one thing. I had a hard time picking just one thing. So I actually have 3 related things that really piss me off about it. First of all, before it was better understood, doctors called it the career woman's disease because they basically thought that it was a result of women who were working too much, or like just in the workforce in general, who as a result of that were delaying or foregoing having a baby. So they were having a psychological response to not bearing a child.
Oh my God.
And that was where the pelvic pain was coming from. So already our pain is like our punishment for not making babies.
Oh
but this isn't this is just the intro. It's not even the thing that pisses me off about endo. So, you were just talking about like, thank God for the advancement of science. There's always more research out there that is building up, like our foundation of understanding all these health issues. 2 research studies came out this year around endometriosis, and you would think it would be to like advance the diagnosis, the treatment of endometriosis for the people who greatly suffer from it. No. The first study was called A Qualitative Study of the Impact of Endometriosis on Male Partners.
Excuse me?
And I read the abstract. I read like the beginning so that nobody else has to.
Don't ever.
It literally talks about how like male partners of people suffering with endometriosis experience more stress. They experience the greater burden of having to take care of their partners. They experience the uncertainty of not knowing if they're going to have a child. Wow. So this was funded research? This is and multiple people put their names on it. I'm not going to say their names.
My taxpayer dollars paid for this research.
It might not have been federal. It might not have been, governmentally funded. But people actually put out a research article where they did, and I want to just put a note aside. I know people in my life, multiple people who have endo, who've experienced having to get treatment for it. I'm not minimizing the impact things like that can have on a family, on just everybody who is like part of the support system. All those people in my life who are supporting their partners, they're the best. They're doing a great job. This isn't about that. This is about us wasting our fucking time talking about that impact. And for what? For what reason? Actually, like I read that page and I was like,
what's the call to action here?
Yeah, were you trying to like inadvertently get more funding and help for endometriosis by saying, look at how sad it is for them? Also, I'm sorry, but the male partners only? What about the female partners? What about the non-binary partners of people with endo? It was just like, what? Whose idea was this? And shut the hell up.
Burn it.
Burn it. Okay, you're going to get anger. Because it doesn't stop there.
I can't, Shraddha. This is too much.
That was one of the research articles published. The second research article that also was published this year and then later retracted due to how much people were pissed off about it. So I didn't read it, but I know that it exists. Is literally called The Attractiveness of Women with Rectovaginal Endometriosis.
What in the world?
And the point of that study and the conclusion of that study was that perhaps women suffering from rectovaginal endometriosis are somehow more attractive. That's it.
Oh my God. And what does that
accomplish?
What does it accomplish? I don't know. What does it accomplish? But also like, who is funding this stuff?
Who is, and again, multiple names were on it. Can
we actually study endo? Like, can we actually do that instead of how attractive a person is or what the impact on a male partner is? Like, what is that? Where is the scientific research here? No.
I would love.
Canceled.
Canceled for sure. So I'm going to switch to my hopeful though, because there's bad research and then there's good, great, amazing research. And so with endometriosis, one of the big challenges and why it goes so underdiagnosed in people is because like you have to have a laparoscopic surgery. That's basically the gold standard method for how to diagnose endo. Yeah, the excision is separate because people can choose to treat endometriosis in multiple ways depending on how advanced it is and what path they want to go down. But just the initial diagnosis relies on people getting a type of surgery that just visually allows doctors to confirm if endometrial tissue is existing in your body. So because of how invasive it is, because of how hard it is to get those appointments or even to get somebody to listen to your symptoms, it can take the average person suffering from endo up to 7 years to get diagnosed after their symptoms start. And for people suffering from endo, they know that those years could feel like a lifetime given the chronic pain that they're dealing with. So we already know that. But now there are new studies that are showing that period blood, which is obviously, as we know, considered waste, can actually be used as a health indicator to help diagnose things like endometriosis.
Whoa.
That is mind-blowing because
But I mean, it makes sense if you think about it.
Total sense.
Why did it take us this long? Yeah.
Well, because again, stigma, right? I think we probably undervalue things like this. Period blood, though, it's not just endometriosis. Early studies are saying that it can help diagnose diseases such as endometriosis, diabetes mellitus, cervical cancer, chlamydia, and even help estimate things like lipid levels in the body that are associated with other like lipid issues. Wow. So if we start to use period blood as a bioindicator, it can help get people to diagnosis faster. It can help them get to treatment a lot faster and in a non-invasive way. So I'm sure there are people out there that are either financially or personally deterred from getting the diagnosis in the first place. But this really opens up huge doors. So I'm so excited about this one because I want to find a company or talk to a researcher that is at the forefront of this. I want to hear from people who are studying period blood because I think that this is one of those resources that we're completely ignoring, but probably tell us so much about our body.
I completely agree. As we have been creating this podcast and talking to people, one of the things that really stands out to me is that word non-invasive. We don't think of testing on women's bodies as non-invasive. And anything that gets us to more non-invasive testing is like so needed in this space, and it's like something that I want to learn as much as I can about because our bodies don't get treated that way. And so I think that that's truly amazing. I can't wait to see, what studies and what research is out there when we get into this in the future.
Yeah, I think that is such a good point, though, that we've talked about it. Like pain and invasion is just kind of table stakes in our treatment, and it doesn't have to be. And we have talked to companies and people this year that are showing us better ways. And I think that that is the future that we get to be really hopeful about.
Okay, so that was a good look back at the year. We will always have things to be angry about, and honestly, it's probably an endless list, but I'm so lucky that even in our current political atmosphere, we have things that we can feel hopeful about. And, women's health is getting talked about more and more. And hopefully more research money continues to go towards solving some of these problems.
But, this isn't it. This isn't our whole episode. We wanted to close out on something even more hopeful. You're going to hear from all of the guests that we had on earlier this year. And we asked them all basically a bonus question when we interviewed them. And we asked them to share stories centered around women's health in terms of how those health issues were discussed in their families or their communities, or what their own experiences were with conversations around women's health. Because at the end of the day, this is all about how we talk about these things more so that we can learn from each other about our own health.
Yeah, we want to think of this as the kitchen table conversations that families are having, that friends are having. That's really what this was. And I think it's a great way to continue to hammer away the point that we are all a community and we are here to listen and learn from each other. And so we hope you really enjoy these little kitchen table stories that our speakers shared with us.
Amazing. So first up, you're going to hear from Amanda Burkhart, who's the CEO of Phiogen, on her mother's experience with menopause and her own introduction to experiencing UTIs.
To give you a little background, I'm from Oklahoma, born in a white, middle-class, very Christian religious family, first-generation college student. So really like your run-of-the-mill vanilla. But being in Oklahoma and being part of a religious family, Women's health was discussed. So it was my mom, my sister, and I. So women's health was something that we talked, and I will give my mom props from the background that she came from. She pretty openly talked about her uh, women's health struggles, problems, periods, things like that. What she was not prepared for and what she has struggled with is menopause. So, like, no one in her family, in fact, my grandma and both of my great aunts all had hysterectomies by the time they were 30 because that's what you
Wow.
did
Wow.
back in the day. So my mom actually had no one to go to when she hit menopause. And so she's been having to grind it out and just try to figure it out. And so she struggled a lot. And she's gone to different doctors who have given her things that she had bad reactions to. So she's had to do a lot of self education. And so for her, it's been very sad actually to see her go through this by herself, but really telling for me to know what I can expect because she didn't even know when she should be hitting menopause. She had no other woman in her family to look to.
Yeah.
So menopause is a huge thing that we don't talk enough about. And then as far as like it relates to me and how, we were pretty open, but when it comes to sexual health, that's a different story. We were very much raised in a very religious household. And so it was a lot about protecting yourself and, about being cognizant of who you are with and what the implications are from a religious standpoint, but also a safety standpoint. So, yeah, that was a lot of but like UTIs, this is actually a prime example. I had no idea. When I went into college, I had no idea that you were supposed to pee after sex. No one told me that.
Yeah.
Even my mom. My mom didn't tell me that. And so I actually went like a week and a half with a UTI that I had no idea. I was miserable in pain. And at the time, that was before like really Google. And I was not sexually active. So I didn't know where it came from. I didn't know what it was. And so I went like a week and a half and then finally went to the doctor and they were like, oh my God, you have a terrible UTI. And I was like, I had no idea what that was. And then of course, as you continue going, like then you start putting two and two together. I ended up having a boyfriend and I was like, oh, this seems to be a pattern. But like even then, like I went to the, of course, male doctor on campus, and it was a little shameful, right? Like, oh, well, how did you get this? And so exactly. So it was a lot of self education, and I feel like that is the case for definitely my mom's generation, my generation, but like my sister has a young daughter, and already like she's trying to teach like hygiene, and it's okay, like and the proper names for things, not to give it like silly names, your anatomy, and so yeah, I think this is a really important thing because I think there's a lot of damage that is done by not talking about it. Like, it's fine for men to talk about their penis and balls, but for a woman to talk about her clitoris and vulva, like, oh my God, grab your pearls, right? So, but it's very important, and so I think it should be talked about more.
Next up, you're going to hear from Melissa Kramer, founder of Live UTI Free, about her journey with endometriosis and health issues that are often left unsaid.
I don't think I have any specifically about talking in code. I have more about the absence of talking and how that impacts you long term. And so I didn't really think about this until I was diagnosed with endometriosis about 5 years ago. And that's when I realized I have no roadmap for my future health because I don't know what it looked like for my aunts and my grandmas or even my mother or sister to some extent. And then I started to ask questions and they were somewhat willing to talk about it, but I realized that they weren't proactive about talking about it, and nobody talked to me about any of the things they'd been through, which in my family included PCOS, endometriosis, fertility issues, hysterectomies at young ages, all of these things that I didn't know about. Certainly didn't know when I started first experiencing endo symptoms. And if we talked about things more proactively, I probably would have got a diagnosis sooner. And if we all talk about things more proactively, we could cut the diagnosis time for everyone around us and help them find solutions for their health problems, or even identify they have one. And so that was more my realization, that people just don't talk about things proactively, but it's to the detriment of everyone around them.
Next, you'll hear from Zhenya Lindgart, the CEO of Sarah, the pregnancy company, about how her mother's experience with childbirth colored her own expectations around motherhood.
The first thing that comes to mind, I will share it, is for decades I was petrified about childbirth because my mom had such a horrible experience. Her labor lasted, I think, 36 hours, and then she had I don't know if maybe it's called mastitis, where she couldn't express milk because her breasts were engorged and then they got infected. And unfortunately, they took the baby away for 4 days while they were trying to figure out what to do with her, and she had a major infection, etc. So unfortunately, nobody talked about it to her, that this could happen and that she could get to see the baby. So my poor mom was so traumatized. I didn't want to have children for a long time because I heard about it nearly every year on how dramatic and traumatic. And needless to say, I ended up being an only child. So,
Oh my gosh.
so I wish that more conversation was had to prepare her. She gave birth to me when she was 21, so I know she was young. She didn't know very much, and it was such a disaster health-wise for her that I'm an only child, and it definitely had a lasting impact on me. And it's because nobody talked to her, but she ended up talking to me a lot about it. So,
And now you have 3.
and now I have 3. Yes.
And you have so many stories to tell them.
Yes,
Indeed, so many stories. And now I'm in pregnancy to change this
Yes.
this situation, so they know all about what to do when they get pregnant and they have a beautiful experience. Because the miracle of life, truly, children are the best thing of life, what has to offer. I didn't think that before having them, but now I'm convinced.
We're now going to close out with a final story from Dr. Amanda Williams from the California Maternal Quality Care Collaborative about the birth of her son and her grandmother's last wishes for her.
My whole childhood, my grandmother was my best friend. And she would always say, well, I've got to live on this planet because I got to see Amanda's baby. And so when I was pregnant and she was still around and then she came out for my baby shower, I started getting nervous because, like, well, my baby's coming soon and I don't want her to die right after my baby comes. And she was really scared of me being pregnant because she had had what was then called toxemia, which we could now call preeclampsia, in the late 1940s, and had a stroke, and the baby had to be delivered early and she lost a baby. And even my dad would tell stories about baby Wendy, who only lived for 1 day, who he was supposed to be the big brother of baby Wendy. And so my grandmother was very nervous about my pregnancy, but she was also very excited. So she started changing her language and saying, I can't wait to teach Amanda's baby how to read. Unfortunately, at 35 weeks, I did get preeclampsia, which was the same condition that had given her the stroke and to lose the baby. Everyone was very worried about it, and then I did need to be induced. My parents and family flew out, and my grandmother was going to fly out. Baby came, I got through delivery safely, and I talked to my grandmother on the phone that morning, and she got to hear baby William be born, and she was just so relieved that I had made it through, even though despite being the chief resident at UCSF, having all this educational privilege, I too had a big pregnancy complication and preeclampsia, and her worst dreams her worries had come true, and she was tremendously relieved that I had got through it safely. Unfortunately, the next morning when she was scheduled to go to the airport, she woke up and she dropped dead. And so I lost her at the same moment that the next day after I had had my baby, who had gone into the NICU and been intubated, and we call it in my family an exchange of breath. She gave her last breath to give him his. And for me, it was like the true exchange of unconditional love, which was really powerful. So that was my family birth story.
That is
It was
so beautiful.
Yeah, it's
my kid's 21 years old, and I'm like, how am I still tearful? He's 21 years old. He's fine. But it was special.
Yeah.
It was really special.
And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.
Happy holidays and Happy New Year.